welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with other inspiring leaders who share their stories and their wisdom to help you become a better leader. And today is no exception. Today we are excited to bring you Mr. Manny Vargas. Manny is an entrepreneur, sales coach, and speaker who has a wealth of experience in building successful businesses, networking with high net worth individuals, and adapting to different environments and personalities. In our conversation with Manny, he's going to dive deep into his journey from growing up in Las Vegas, where he had dreams of becoming a professional ball player, to his career in the hospitality industry, and his eventual journey into sales and entrepreneurship. Manny shares how he developed his natural ability to connect with people and communicate, his strategies for building relationships with successful mentors and peers, and his approach to managing high risk and making bold decisions. We also explore Manny's passion for personal growth and self-development, his decisions to help others break free from their doubts and fears, and all the free resources he offers on his website, alwaysonthegrow.com. The website is specifically designed to help people on their journey, whether it be in sales or just communication in general. But before we get into the conversation with Manny, I want to remind you about the Renowned Leadership Group Coaching Program. In this program, you'll learn effective communication strategies to help you connect with your team and manage problem employees. You'll develop new skills and strategies to help you achieve your goals and advance your career. You'll gain access to a supportive community of like-minded leaders who can offer guidance and support. You'll receive regular feedback, and you'll be held accountable to help you stay on track and achieve your goals, and so much more. And for a limited time, if you enter the coupon code COACHING360, that's COACHING360, at checkout, you'll get the first month of group coaching plus all the other benefits that come with the program absolutely free for 1 month. So without further ado, let's dive into our conversation with Manny Vargas. And after the episode, be sure to head over to Manny's website, alwaysonthegrow.com, and check out all the free resources he has to offer you. And don't forget to visit renownedleadership.com to learn more about our group coaching program and get your special offer while we're still running it. I've been told from mutual friends of ours, but I've never actually heard your story, and I hear your story is pretty awesome. So if you would, take us back as far as you want, but how did you end up where you are today? What was the road for Manny?
Well, if you're going to ask me like that, man, I'm going to say it was Las Vegas Boulevard, right? Right on the right on the center strip out here in the beautiful city. And I'm still adjusting to my new mic setup and my tall desk. So I'm going to, play down here, come up here once in a while, back off. But it's a loaded answer for me that I could spend a lot of time on to explain where I came from. But I'll do my best to add it up in sequence in more of a timeline format so you can understand what went on there. There's a lot of little nuances in life that kind of take place in the middle of it. But I always have fun with it because I eat, sleep, and you can finish the rest there, Vegas. And I love this town so much. It's still home for me. We're raising a family here now. And part of my upbringing, or should I say all of my upbringing, was really baked right there in the middle of all the liveliness, just not too far from the boulevard itself. And so, life happens, right? Traumas happen. Things get the best of you. And I didn't realize this until, obviously much later down the road. But, from a young age, I had many adversities. A car wreck, for those of you on video, you can see the big scar on my face. It still runs nicely right there. Asthma attack that, was putting me in the hospital, toughness of breathing, very, very tough to deal with as a kid. Mom was out of my life from a young age. And then she actually ended up passing away when I was 10 from cancer. And so that put a big dent into, sort of that, created a void in my life from more of a motherly / nurturing type of a standpoint. And little do you know, when you're young, you don't really know how this stuff adds up until you grow up and you figure out life down the road. You're like, that's why I was so jacked up. That's why I was such an asshole to girls and wanted to, smack them when I got drunk and all these other different things. And we'll get there. So those kind of first few steps, it's like I said, born in Vegas, thankful for that. Dad was a rock star, raised me on his own, had a troop around him, family support, but dad liked to have fun too. Dad got into some crazy things and, had his vices, but maintained a level of stability and helping raise me and really put some belief in me that created this almost effect that I could be somebody someday. And it's funny because I also share the story about when my dad used to watch all his favorite movies when I was a kid. I'd be there right beside him watching, Van Damme or Steven Seagal and these different guys, or, even females in their respective movies, just like win and crush it and save the day and beat all the bad guys. And I'm like, damn, that looks pretty cool, man. I think that, I want to be one of those guys one day, not like literally fighting people and kicking their ASSs, but the result, the effect of that. And then I found myself watching sports games when I was younger in our local television stations. That it was the Atlanta Braves, it was the Chicago Cubs. And if somebody hit a walk-off home run, I watched the guy trot around the bases in this full stadium of 40, 50,000 people cheering, going crazy. And I said, I want that. I just had this predetermined feeling that something big was coming. And so those sort of kept continuing down the timeline. Like I said, mom passed away when I was 10. Baseball saved me. I did play. I ended up going away to college in San Francisco for it. But the moment that I got away from home and kind of had my own freedoms, I started getting into the drinking, partying. In college, to start off with, I would miss my baseball games, and just, I'd be passed out, blacked out, drunk. I literally was sleeping in the dorm room of our building. And I was supposed to be about 40 miles south at a game at the time I woke up, and I said, oh shit. And the coaches laughed about it after the fact, straight up. Coaches I got text messages, I got calls, and they joked about it afterward. They said, Vargas is either dead or he's wasted. And I was like, well, number two, man, I'm wasted. I was wasted. And so that happened on several occasions when I was away in college. And so, I didn't last too long. I thought I had a destiny to be a ball player. It was one dream I carried, man, was to be a professional ball player, like at the highest level. I remember that. I always thought big. I always thought world changing. And unfortunately, that path came to a close for me. And, it was tough for me because growing up, all I identified with was being a professional sports player. So in the days in college, after I bounced around a little bit in San Francisco, I ended up quitting. And then I ended up moving back home to Las Vegas. And that's when I got involved in the hospitality industry. It was like my first job. I was fortunate enough to start off in a good restaurant in MGM. It just so happened that the GM and the AGM liked sports guys, because if you could play sports, you could really kind of be a team player. You had the grit, you had the will and sort of the fight to get in there and compete. And so they appreciated that. And I got my first gig there. Same time. So I'm, 18, 19, I get this job. I'm in Vegas. I just start this spiral. So now I'm making good money. I'm a kid, I'm back in Vegas. I came back home from college. I'm making, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month in tips, cash. I'm like, God, I don't have any bills to pay. So it's like, oh, what do I do with all this? So because I wanted to fit in and be a part of the cool school, I ended up going to hang out with other people that were working in the restaurant. And they just happened to know bartenders around town. So we would go out to the bars. I didn't have an ID because I wasn't 21. So they would just be like, oh, he's with me. He's cool. Bartenders didn't care. And then in that phase, I was obviously still drinking and having fun on that level. But then I started getting into the gambling thing. And I was like, oh, man, this is kind of fun. Like I can risk my money because I don't have anything to worry about, but I also make good money. So I might as well just keep putting it in the machines and see if I can get rich like this, right? Let me see if I can create something spectacular out of it. Little did I no, at that time, that was a very bogus belief about how to make money. And I always credit the experience I had in, so let me go back a second, an experience I had when I was in high school, transitioning to college to go to San Francisco. I went and spent a summer in Europe with my aunt, um, who was my mom's sister, and her husband at the time was very successful, right? And had built a very successful company, and they lived large, like very lavishly, but because they had already figured this whole game out of building companies and businesses. And so I went to visit them in Europe, in Switzerland, and I got my first taste of what that life looked like. Because for me, I was only, maybe middle class, lower income class. So I really never was exposed to any of that. So my way of thinking was really just like, this is it. And then I saw something else and I was like, whoa, this could be. And so I look back now and I start to realize like, hey, okay, well, that was destiny combined with like a new way of seeing the world. And so then as part of that journey in those restaurants that I was working at, in the middle of getting into gambling and in the middle of partying myself off, I started exploring how to build businesses. Like I was like, well, if I want to create that life that they have, he built a company, I have to figure out how this business thing works. And so I basically went tirelessly to work on starting companies at like 19 and 20. I was like, okay, well, I know restaurants because I'm in a, like, I might as well just start there. Like that's the best thing I can do right now. And so like, why don't I just start going out and try to figure out what restaurant idea Las Vegas needs. And so I was the kid that would literally walk up to the restaurant owners that own the restaurants. These guys are multimillionaires. They got big corporate deals with these casinos. Like they're bigwigs. And I was like, hey man, you want to sit down and talk about my restaurant idea? They're like, aren't you the busboy? Like, dude, aren't you supposed to be, picking up tables and all that stuff? I'm like, yeah, but man, let me just show you. Like I got some cool stuff. And so I was very persistent in finding people and aligning myself with people that played at a high level in these different environments. And so somewhere along the way, I was able to understand that people and connection mattered a lot. And I was able to start surrounding myself with people that played at a high level. And so in that pursuit, obviously I was still drinking and partying. I had no control over it because of many of the things that were evidence of my past that, now started to compound as sort of a loose, I have no identity, no direction type of a guy, aside from this kind of business I want to start or get going, gambling. And then I got into nightlife. So one of the biggest and best nightclubs still today is still rocking here in Vegas, was opening up. And a buddy of mine had sent me a message and he's like, yo, dude, this new club's opening up. Like, why don't we apply and see if we can get it? And so we did. And I'm talking like the whole world wanted to work here. And so of, I think like 40 to 50 bus boys, runners for the nightclub, 90% of them had known somebody already in the industry. And then here comes my buddy and I, and we just rip through and we get the job. Like, and dude, we're just like living on cloud nine because, when you're early 20s and you get a nightclub job like that, dude, you're surrounded by hot chicks. It's party and you get all this stuff for free. All these cool things, these perks and whatnot start to unfold themselves for you. And so that became life at 23, 24. I didn't give up my business ideas. I took it to another level because part of my decision to get in the nightclub was, one, I only work a few days a week. I make good money. That gives me the rest of my days to work on my business and travel for my business if I need to, my to-be business. And then secondly, it was a place where I knew, it was a place that I knew a lot of rich people would hang out because they were coming there to spend their money, and a lot of it, right? They had no regrets or no hesitations to come into the nightclub and spend 10, 20, 50, 100 grand. And I was like, well, this could be a connection point for me, man. All I have to do is be myself and ask people what they do for a living. Do they invest? Are they business guys? And sure enough, I met, dude, I have like a stack of napkins like this tall. It's probably like over 2 feet of numbers and emails and stuff that I was just sourcing from table guests all the time. And people would always make fun of me. They're like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you always talking to people about business? You're gay. Why are you talking to these guys? And I'm like, dude, I'm here to, follow the dream, man. Like, I ain't here just to be a busboy. The owners of the club, I approached them. I met with them. I mean, I'm just like hustling. And around that time, I started getting into this whole mix of electronic dance music because we were kind of the epicenter of bringing in all the DJs. Like our nightclub was the epicenter at first before some of the other mega nightclubs started opening. So you talk about David Guetta, Calvin Harris, Tiesto, Avicii, Deadmau5. I can go, the whole list played at our nightclub every night. So like I'm starting to get familiar with this culture of dance music. And so then I'm like, well, what if I start taking these drugs that everybody's suggesting? And so, dude, it felt too good. I had too much trauma underneath me. Life was freaking sexy and fun. And so now I'm drinking, now I'm gambling, and now I'm partying and taking drugs every night for a living. And it's like, whoa, like think about that thrill. It was, by the way, my 20s, I don't have any regrets, dude, because I lived a lot of fun life and I got a lot of great experience. And it just so happens that the place that I was working at, that nightclub, people that worked in that nightclub ended up becoming my first investors in the restaurants that I bought. So in the middle of all this craziness at 25, I ended up opening up 3 restaurants here in Vegas. Some of the people that I worked with were investors in the business with me because they saw how hungry I was and how committed I was to building these projects. And, whether that was a busboy that was next to me that found his way into some money, or the waitresses that some of them invested because they made lots of great money at that time, were willing to commit to that. And so mid-20s, I ended up becoming a restaurant owner, lost them quick. I mean, it was super fast, like just like that. As fast as the plane took off and went down, because I had no idea what I was doing, dude. I'd rather, this was just young and dumb, I would have rather gone out to the festival, EDC, Las Vegas, when I'm supposed to be running and figuring out my business. And the idea of being a business owner was much cooler than actually running and growing a company. And so life's lessons.
It's not so sexy when you actually get into it, is it?
It's not. It wasn't. I don't think it still is, by the way. Yeah, it's still tough. By the way, I was just telling this to somebody the other day. I don't think people understand the level of difficulty that I have to sit here in an office area at a desk and work on a computer to build a dream, because that's what's required, right? Now, again, to each its own, the lifestyles they create, things they do. My lifestyle for a decade was go out, take people out, have fun, party, drink, dance, club. Like that's how I got paid. And now I'm supposed to sit at a desk and write and produce and make content and do all these different things and think. Like I got paid to not think, to get high. I'm like, so imagine the shift. It's like straight, I'm not kidding when I say that. It's like I literally got paid to party. I didn't have to think. My work was just muscle. Like I could pick up a bucket of crafts, pour some orange juice, and I'd be good, right? So it wasn't like you had to use your mind, which has been one of the toughest things for me in terms of transformation. Anywho, I digress there. But that taught me a lot. And then after losing the businesses, the restaurants, about a year and a half, I went back into working again. I got a job at the airport as a food and beverage manager. I hated it. At the same time, I was, losing my girlfriend at the time that I truly adored and loved, and just, it was falling and collapsing because I was a hot mess. I was still partying and drinking and basically, self-sabotaging everything. What was that? Car got repossessed. Didn't have a place to live. Had to move back in with my dad. I was taking literally bottles to the head every night. And then eventually that kept going. It just kept partying some more, all kinds of cocaine, kinds of Molly, ecstasy, all that good stuff. Going out to really just like let the pain fly, would just use all the drugs and the drinking to cover it up. And then in 2015, it was just kind of compounding. It got really, really heavy. And there was a lady that had came to visit me from Europe, and I really liked the girl, and we had a great time in California. We went on a little small vacation during Halloween. Then we came back. I had a really wealthy friend in town. We went out and partied. We had the best tables at the nightclub, front dance stage, center stage. We had all the drugs we wanted. And of course, like in my traditional fashion, I got just annihilated, wasted, high and drunk, and then wake up the next day, right? So that was common for me, like get really high, black out, forget the night, wake up the next day feeling like absolute shit, and then go, what happened, right? And so on this particular day, she was there next to me in the bed, and she was just looking at me like I was crazy. And I was thought to myself, like, what's up? And then she just went on this rant about what I did to her the night before that I didn't have no recollection of. It's like, she was like, dude, you tried to throw me out of a moving taxi cab. You were trying to fight me and push me and punch me. And I'm like, seriously? And that's not who I am. That's not who I am at all. Like, when I'm sober, I'm a kind-hearted, loving type of guy. But I had realized in that moment, like, that was it. Because at that moment, I had this sort of, cartoon book that just flipped through every image in my life that made me realize how much I lost because of this type of behavior that I was using, that she had put up to my face and gave me the mirror to. And I said, that's it. Like, I am not going to keep going through this. I'm not going to keep losing things that I value and I appreciate. And in that day, I decided that, you know what, I'll start small, ask myself one question: what's causing this? And the what's causing this was the drinking. And so when I drank, that's when I couldn't control the gambling. I couldn't control the drugs. If I didn't drink, which was rare that I did not drink, I was good. I was like a normal human being. I was like two opposite bipolar personalities of me, two-faced almost to say. And so I was tired of living my life that way, because I knew deep down inside of me, I had some greatness and some big destiny. And then made the decision to get sober, and then just kind of went on this quest, man. And this quest led me forward to, start revealing who I was truly inside of myself. Lots of personal growth, lots of reading, lots of writing, wrote the book, started the podcast. Then I went and traveled the country for 2 years, speaking on stages around the country, mind you, with no experience. This is just part of, my DNA. Was very fortunate there. Then I came back to Vegas. I started working in a phone room, making phone calls, because I wanted to get skilled up in sales. Really did good in that situation in a matter of a couple months. And then I went on to run the celebrity brand and sports division of that company, calling into Hollywood, working deals with celebrities, agents, and managers. Funny, I just was texting one right now. Tomorrow I'm interviewing a Real Housewives of New Jersey cast member. So we're going to be doing that. So I still got these great relationships with people that I was working with over there. And then, then it was like, okay, I seem to be on this good track professionally. And then COVID came around. I left that job, started working on my own stuff, started helping other people sell a bunch of high ticket programs. And then I really had a tough time, really kind of digging my teeth into some stuff for my own sake on business again, because I think I had been scarred from my previous experiences. And I still think I had some unresolved trauma in there that was really helping me doubt myself and not believe in myself. And then I threw in a relationship on top of that. And so I was trying to find my way in business and navigate that, plus also welcome into my life a new relationship. And that was challenging in the circumstances that we were in. So it was very, very pressured. And so it caused me to have, these adverse reactions in terms of how I was moving my life forward versus when I didn't have any of that. So it's like, if I had just myself to worry about in my own navigation, I was good, because I was in my own lane. I didn't have anything to worry about. I had to add, the relationship and this new idea of doing my own business stuff was quite scary altogether. We got through that after about a year and a half. I can say we're happily engaged at this point. Looking forward to the next chapter there. And then we ended up getting pregnant and have a baby. And that's been a whole new way of looking at life for me. And, at the end of the day, as you see behind me, I'm a full representation of what it is that's behind me, is which is always on the grow, right? So at this point in my life, I've realized, like, I want to be at peace, but I can still move forward towards my goals. But I don't want to have this inner conflict that's just creating this stirring effect that puts me unease, right? I want to be at ease. I want to be at peace while still going at things. I don't want to have these grudges and these judgments and these regrets and these shames and these guilts. And so big part of my life today is to still keep moving forward in the vision, but also realize that, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's professional, it's financial, and all these other pieces that come together at the same time. So yeah, man, I mean, that's, I could have probably drawn that out for about 2 podcasts would be over, man, if I drew that out any longer. I mean, and I can get into some gory details, man, and really have some more fun with that. But as far as the first 20 minutes, there you go.
Take a breath, man.
I
That's
can talk
great
for days.
stuff. Yeah, I know you can. And for those of you that don't, well, most of you don't know Manny probably, but he's always like this. Like every time I've met Manny or talked to Manny, he's just 100 miles an hour, tons of energy, which is probably one of the reasons why he did so well in sales. Um, but I want to bounce back to something you said when you were talking about your early life in the nightclub. Um, one of the reasons you said you wanted to go there is because you knew that that's where the rich people are going to hang out, right? How important is it? Because a lion doesn't hang out with other lions, right? I'm sorry, it doesn't hang out with tigers. It hangs out with other lions, right? How important is it to surround yourself with what you want to become so that you learn to act and be like a lion, be like what you want to be?
Yeah. So the short answer is it's everything, right? And I want to go back to what you just said a few seconds ago, because I don't like, you'll see something about me. I'm a real-time troubleshooter, and I really like to do what I can to the very best effect for the people that are listening. And so when you said, "Hey, Manny, you're always like this," you probably have seen me like this, because in the environment that you and I have interacted, this is what's required of me, right? Like this is that part of my life where it's a stage for me, and I'm here to show up for you, right?
Right.
There's times where I'm at home and I'm quiet, right? And I'm just in my own peaceful place. Like if sometimes I'm in a conversation, I'm more passive, I'm laid back. What I'm doing is I'm really orienting myself to the situation and what the situation requires of me. Like I'm going to bring it for you in your audience, right? And that's almost like what a performer would do. But I don't want people to look at this from a position of like not being authentic. I'm just sharing it from a position of situational awareness, right? What is it that I am in this moment required to do in this situation so that I can be a part of that environment to the best of my ability? And one of the things, Stephen, that's helped me over time, and I think this really just is one of those gifts that God gave to me, which was I can adapt into almost any environment and become something for that particular situation, right? And so I just wanted to preface that like, yeah, this is me here, but I'll probably walk off of here, take a deep breath and calm and collect myself, and then make a shift to start another activity. If I'm in a room where, it's quiet, it's more formal, I might have a different demeanor, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm reading the room, I'm feeling out certain things. And in this situation, I know it's just you and I, but I do realize the importance of the experience that people are having either visually or audibly here with us. So it's like I really try to understand that from that perspective. So I just wanted your people to know that it's a shifting that takes place inside of me. Now,
Before
got
you
it?
answer, before we move on, that's actually really cool because that's one of the first things you taught me about sales. Whenever you're trying to sell, you have to gauge the personality, you have to gauge the environment you're in, and you have to kind of adapt yourself and become that environment so that you can be successful in your sell. Otherwise, it's going to be friction and you're going to get kicked right out.
Yeah, I think a word to qualify that is like a chameleon. It can blend in its environment. And where I think that comes from is just a lot of practice. And, a lot of people, if you were, almost a genius, you would think about what I shared with you earlier about my experience in Vegas. What isn't stated there is the fact that I interacted with people from all over the world nightly. Like my job was to figure out, all right, if Quran came in from India, which was very normal, like it was my duty to go there and meet Quran on his level and be a part of his world in Vegas and then learn about him at the same time. And so I'm processing just so many different data points from so many different types of individuals from around the world when they came to my city. my city, baby. This is my town, right? And so I think that helped drive my ability over time when I started to get more formally skilled in sales. So then I was able to blend the two of what that helped me understand with now the skill sets, which made me even more dynamic in my ability to communicate with people and connect with people, right? Because that's how I look at it. It's just, for me, it's just connecting and communicating.
Right.
And so the connecting part for me in more natural God-given ways does tend to happen for me more naturally. I don't know that I can teach you exactly how I can do it. And I feel super thankful and privileged and blessed in that capacity. But I also know that it just doesn't stop there. There's got to be so much more that's added to that puzzle to make it a beautiful piece of artwork once it's done. So hopefully that sets it up. Because again, I don't want to let the idea go off for people like, oh, it's like, what's he not saying? So it's like, I really try to think at the depth of helping people understand that, yeah, for me, it might seem easy, but there's also some natural inborn things there that are a part of that also are supported by some of the more modern day activities and actions that I've taken to help really build up a really solid way to interact with people.
Solid. I like it. And I mean, so
Well, let me go back. Let me finish the people thing. The people
oh
thing.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
we're
sorry.
no, it's all good, man. I want to be able to go. You just kind of touched on the level of importance being around the right people and getting in those environments. And for me, where I am today, it could be done, I believe, on my own, but I don't ever really believe that it's ever on your own, right? So it's like, you ever hear these people that say, I'm a self-made millionaire. It's like, well, no, you're not, because you probably trained and learned under and been coached by.
Mhm.
It's like, it's just, I think that's egomaniac type stuff. But every step of the way for me, I have looked up ahead and identified giants that have gone before me, and then done my best in everything to go and surround myself with them and find myself in those circles one way or the other. I still do it to this day, man. I just was on a phone call this morning with a guy that has built a ridiculously successful event company. I mean, to the tune of a lot, like massive stadium size type stuff. And he was just sharing some stuff with me. And I said, dude, I'd love to learn from you, man. I mean, like I'll come out to your place. I'll smoke a cigar with you and just understand business because you got it. And I'm like, I dig it. So that's also a part of it where you can't be unwilling to go and put yourself out there, regardless of what stage you're at. And so at a young age, I realized that being around people that had the money that would be able to invest, and if I could demonstrate to them that I was willing and hungry and able enough, that I would start to get some attention towards those types of people wanting to pour into me. And then I think, again, by virtue of just being in Vegas and taking people out, I started to realize, like, I want to be around people that were successful. It was that simple. I just want to be around people that are successful because, and again, I can't pinpoint why that was the case, but I just knew that that's how I approached it. And so I just went and started communicating with them, started putting myself in front of them when I was younger. But by the way, I still do the same thing today. I have no fear of doing that today. It's like, look, you just never know where your next opportunity can come from. You never know where your next deal can come from. You never know what kind of an opportunity to do business together with somebody can come from just by putting yourself out in the way of it, right? And I think a lot of people, they get complacent in those things that that can really help them have more of a multiplier. And those have been multipliers for me. Me traveling the country and speaking was me getting under the wing of somebody else that believed in me. My sales and communication skills today have been because of who I've learned under. I've learned under literally the giants of the sales and marketing industry that are my friends and mentors. Not that I didn't pay any of these guys. I literally worked for them at their companies, or they are just mentors of mine and friends I can call up right now that have taught me. And I just think that they were able to, like, I just got in at the right time with the right people, and they were willing to scoop me in at the beginning of my process. And I made them know that they were the star in helping me get better. Always gave them the recognition that they deserved, and always let them know. And I think the best thing you can do for somebody like that is to do stuff and like become somebody or do something. And I was constantly proving that I was ready to go, and still, and so that's so important, man. I mean, if you can't, if you're stuck somewhere, go find somebody that's successful in your area or wherever you're at, and simply say, hey man, what can I do for you? Like, how can I wash your shoes? Can I clean your car? I don't care. I just need to get the hell out of where I'm at, because I'm not liking it. And some guy I heard on the radio or podcast or whatever said, come on, talk to these successful people. I was like, shit, I might as well listen to this guy. He said it kind of sounds like he knows what we're talking about. So I figured I'd try. What do you think? And you might say no. And then like, dang it. Come back the next day. Try again. He says, get the hell out of here. What, I told you no, second time? Okay, great. Third day. Come back again. Fourth day. But dude, I'm telling you, at some point they break and they're like, all right, whatever you want. Come on, get your ass in here. Let's go. Got to do this type of thing, right? It's just certain virtues work, man. They just work. So.
Yeah, right on. And I'm a firm believer of that. I'm also, something else you mentioned was about your network. And, to me, success isn't financial. It's not how many houses you own. It's not property. It's one, my success is determined by my influence and by my network. I read it in a book somewhere. I can't remember what it was called, but somewhere along through the book it said your network equals your net worth. And I believe that 100%.
Yeah, man.
As you've demonstrated.
You can call, I can call, look, I can lose everything tomorrow. And I can go to zero, and I can call up people we know. I can call up 50 of the other people I know and say, hey, unfortunately, this happened. I'm on the rebound. Can we work together? Can we do something together? What can I help you with? And they're going to be like, dude, really? Let's go. Come on. Pick you right up. Let's go. And then you got to go in there and do stuff. Get it done.
Right.
It's just like that. But if I don't have that network, well, then if I'm calling my friend Joe, who goes to work every day and complains because life sucks to him, and he's angry and pissed off because he's not doing anything, he's lazy, goes home, watches TV every day. By the way, if you do that, I'm not mad at you. It's just depending on what kind of lifestyle you want, what kind of quality of life you're working towards, or what your vision is. And if that's your network, well, then of course you're not going to raise above it where you're currently at, because, well, that's who you can call. Well, that's not necessarily the best person to call. You might think so, but it's a full-blown illusion, right? So, again, and that requires, again, an extreme level of discomfort, man. I mean, that's just kind of the name of the game, Sales is a lot of discomfort. It is not for everybody. It's really not. So, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to kind of write your own ticket, control your own destiny, I would say start with that. And so, but yeah, man, go ahead, take the mic back, man. I'll keep going.
So you were talking about, and God willing, it doesn't happen to you, obviously, but you're talking about losing everything, which makes me think of a question of how do you balance your risk management, your risk taking as an entrepreneur? How do you balance that, and how does that affect your decisions within your businesses?
It's a really good question. Until I have come into my recent relationship and now have a kid, I would say I didn't really think about it. I just did it. I really didn't quantify risk. I was like, well, I can afford to take these chances. And if I go to zero or lose, at least I have the satisfaction of knowing that I went for something. It's kind of like how when I used to gamble, I was like, well, if I lose all my money, I will go back to the club the next night and make a bunch of money again in cash. And so I can keep replenishing it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so up to a certain point, I really did not take that approach where I was balancing it. I was more like, I'm ready to jump, and I don't care how far I fall. I'll be fine. Right. I'll pick myself back up. That's always kind of been my mentality. Recently, it's changed and shifted because now I have a partner that's kind of, another set of eyes and ears to me. And she's like, well, hey, wait a second, it's like, now we're here, and, now we got a, kid. And it's like, okay, and I'm like, no, hell with that. I'm staying true to who I am, it's like, and it pisses me off because my identity's wrapped up in that. It's like, no, I'm a risk taker. I'm always going to be a risk taker. And she's like, well, there's 2 of us now, 3 of us. And so you got to kind of like, in the back of my head, I'm like, yes, it's MF and all that stuff. Not like yes, but not like I would ever do anything about it, because it's like, no, I'm gonna lose that part of myself, because who I've come to know myself as. And so I'll still take chances, but I orient the risks that I take in a way where I know that it's like, it's not life or death if we don't make this happen, right? And by the way, risks are relevant to tons of different subsets of life, right? So a business risk is going to be different than a risk of me jumping off the bed and sumoing my kid when he wants to wrestle, right? Just, when we get there, there's different types of associated risks with different decisions that you're talking about. So depending on the situation, it would be more of a real-time thought process for me, Stephen, that I would take in order to determine what the next best step would be based on the context of my life and that moment and that time frame. And then you also have to consider, that moment in that time frame, but then there's also a series of different things that happened leading up to that. There's a different series of things that are going to go forward that you have to think about and consider, because that's the foresight. So as much as I would like to say that it's a cookie cutter approach, it's less than that. It's more agile, with a combination of insight and wisdom from previously made decisions and risk takings, and also knowing that I still need to continue to take risks, because I have to push myself to the point where I'm maxing myself out potential wise. And I can't give up risks, because in order to keep moving forward, there's a lot of risk. It's inherent. And so from that perspective, I would say that I take a less calculated approach, and I take more of I'm downloading this in real time, and then I'm going to make my decision off of that type of thing. But I do make sure that I know that, at this point, my immediate family we're on the same page. And if something I don't like to hear or something, it's going to come down to like, okay, well, I'm leading this ship. So there might be some sit back and some understanding and some, okay, I hear what you're saying, but the thinking pattern there might be just a little off. But because if I don't do this, then the opportunity might fall between the cracks, and then, we might miss this. It's like, yeah, I kind of have to take that one. But if we don't make it, then what's going to happen? Well, we might lose this. Oh, can we live with that? All right. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. We'll live with that. Can we get past it? Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, then let's go for this thing. Right. So it's not an easy answer, man. It's not something that I at least personally, like, I'm always taking from my own perspective, man. I always say this, like, this is how I see the world. My world of view is not the right way or the wrong way. It's just how I do it. Right. So it's like, that's what I love about these podcasts. Like you're doing, it's like, bring these different people on. And it's just different perspectives, right? It's just how they see things, what they do. You never know what's going to work for you. You might work for you, might not. You might take a giant risk after listening to me. It's like, God damn it, that Manny guy. I'm like, God damn.
I promise you that's not going to happen.
Go see Steven.
At least for me, for me, I'm sure 99% of everyone in the world will tell me I'm an absolute idiot. My risk tolerance comes from instinct. And my instinct, my instincts got me through multiple war zones, got me through all kinds of stuff. I'm still alive. I've learned to really rely on my gut instincts. And
right.
I just passed on a pretty big deal. I can't tell you why. I just didn't feel good about it. I had zero peace about this particular deal. And nothing was wrong on paper. It just, I didn't like it.
Right.
And so,
right.
And
that's fine.
Sorry. Yeah. So, I mean,
that's your mechanism.
Yeah. That's how I deal with it. So I want to shift a little bit, and because Manny, one of my favorite things about you is the way you speak. Like you are one of the best communicators I think I've ever personally met in my life. You speak very elegantly. I don't want to say elegantly. I think that makes you sound a little foo-foo, but you're very clear, concise. You don't over explain. How hard was it to develop your communication style? Because I don't think it came that the level at which you communicate, I don't think it comes naturally. I think that was something you had to work on and refine over the years.
You're spot on. You're spot on, man. You know, I did not come up with the ideology that I was intelligent. I believe that I was dumb. I was not a smart kid growing up. I cheated, 99% of the time. So, like, again, like I said, for a decade, I just wasted my brain. I had friends, and a lot of my old communication was, slang and F that and F this and just, talking like you're Joe Cool. And so you pointing that out, if you believe what I'm about to tell you and you just kind of do what I suggest you can do to get better at it, this part of me has been a complete transformation. It is almost like I don't even recognize myself, but it was very simple. And when I first started going out and traveling the country, actually, let me take it back just a little bit before that. When I got sober and I started going on this journey of learning how to find myself, part of what I identified was that I wanted to be a speaker and I wanted to share my story because I wanted to be on stage. And so I went out and found a voice coach. And the voice coach was here in Vegas. And we worked together, and she was helping me with different parts of the speaking process, whether that was the breathing, whether that was the voice, whether that was the exercising of these different things. But she stressed something very important. She's like, you need to work on your vocabulary. And I was like, wow, well, that sucks to hear, but okay, let's figure this out. Because that's where I was. I was willing to do whatever it took to get better. And she's like, read these books, right? Pride and Prejudice and some other just like super fancy books. I'm like, the hell am I reading this for? Like, I don't want to read this crap. It's like this super fantastic, poetic, and just deep. I mean, I'm talking books you read in the library at school and stuff like that. And so here I go, and I'm like, okay, great. So I started going down that track. At the same time, she started. I don't have them right here with me, but I do have them here in the house somewhere. She gave me these other. Oh, I forget what they were called, but they were essentially not tongue twisters, but something like that. But they were more full formed, like paragraphs. And they were designed to help you learn how to speak and enunciate the words and hit the vowels and the different sounds of the words. And it was like, sir, bezel, like stuff they use in acting. And so she was starting to give me the tools to practice this stuff, right? So what started off as like just the desire to speak better on stage and get on stage turned into me learning how to be what you're talking about, start the process of being a better communicator. And I remember also listening to some other leaders of the speaking world say how important the voice was and just the use of your voice versus what you're saying. And so I realized like, okay, I can be more dynamic if I learn how to use my voice and make sounds and have fun with it and change the tones and the ups and downs while also using fantastic words and word choice and taking people on a ride. And that's how I looked at it. And so what I realized that I was doing now looking back is I was stacking these things together. I was really putting them all together, but I wouldn't realize what it was doing. And there's more to it. So hold on here. I didn't realize I was compounding these skill sets, these voice abilities in real time because it felt stupid and dumb. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? It's an old video of me where I was in UNLV's theater and I run it on stage and I'm like, da, 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 and I'm practicing my speech. And I'm like, practicing Beelzebubs and these different, tongue twisters and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, man, one day I'm going to be there. I just swear this is ridiculous right now, but I'm going to get there, man. It's going to be good. And so practice like that every day, right? I just committed to that because I realized how powerful the tool was of the voice. I was just sold on certain things. Some certain things sold me. And then the blessings happened, right? I got better at that. I had an on-ramp in communication. And then, like I said, I went out and started traveling the country speaking. And that mentor that brought me in, two of the biggest things that he taught me at the time, one of them I'm still working on a lot. But the first thing, he's like, the power of your language and your communication will dictate the quality of your bank account, the quality of your relationships, the quality of your life, quality of your career, all of it. He's like, the quality of your language. And I said, okay, All right. All right. And the other thing was passive income, like get passive income, right? And he was very successful. He's very, very wealthy and does well, really, really, really well. But that language thing stuck with me. And at that time, as you can imagine, I had this compounding effect of the acts and the activities of what that previous coach had done for me and turning me around from just trying to be a better speaker to now, all right, well, this thing is amplifying. I'm actually going to be on stage now. It turned into more outcome-based language. So I bought 3 books. I literally bought 3 books because I went to the internet and I said, well, what are the best language books? And I started realizing that it was in the way that marketing copy was written. It was in the way that pieces of work were done that talked about things that would result in, right? And it just so happened that around the same time, I was also realizing that, sales was a lot of talking about what it would do on the other side. And so I bought 3 books, Phrases That Sell, Words That Sell, and More Words That Sell. And they're in the other room, but I literally bought those books, and they're like, small little thin books, but they have pages of phrases. And so the phrases were all outcome based. And I would go through every day. I'm talking for 2+ years, every single day, I would read those pages out loud. And then what I would do is I would take a phrase from one page and they would have a ... I would go and I would then write a different phrase from a different page onto the end of the first phrase with a ... I would combine the phrase from page 27 to page 2. And then I would go out and I would then do it with the other ones, and I would reverse them. And then I would go through them. I would go through them with the original phrase and I'd add the extended phrase. And then I was coming up with new language patterns. And what was happening was I was sitting there and I was coming up with words. Like, this was the spectacular part, Stephen. I would start saying words where I don't even know where they came from. And I was like, did I just say that? And then I would go back. Dude, I kid you not. I would go back to the dictionary. I'd be like, I just said this word. What the hell does it mean? And I would look it up. Dude, I would look it up. And it made sense. It made, in the context, it made sense. And I was dumbfounded. I was like, wow, okay. Like, that's just the genius of the brain, right? So it's like somewhere in there, it just had this ability. And I think all I was doing was activating it. And I was activating because I was practicing every single day. And I was taking what I learned before and I would say the word and I would play with it. So then I would go down the next page on that same book and I would interact with them. And by the way, I would also write these things out. So then I would erase and I would change words and I'd say it. And so I was just constantly flipping. Then there were pages that had ... or commas and it could be continued. I would come up with them on my own. So now it was like, I'd read the first thing and then I would go in my head and I would create the ending without reading the ending. And so I was forcing my mind to communicate based off of this outcome-based language that I was practicing every single day. And because of that, dude, I woke up one day and I was like, and by the way, I thank you for the compliment, but now people literally come to me and they're like, dude, how do you communicate with people? And I'm like I feel like at this point, it's just downloaded. It just comes up from above and it comes through me. And people pay me a lot of money to communicate, like literally. And it's one of those things where I look back and I'm like, man, I didn't do too much. I didn't really, there's nothing special about what I did there outside of just going and like following these core ideas and trying some stuff out and rehearsing and practicing it every day to the point where, in everything that I did while I was practicing, in every conversation that I would have, I was practicing those words. I was using those same types of phrases. I would stop and think about what word I want to use here. I wasn't just so fast with it and slowing myself down. And by the way, what added fuel to this, just so you know, what added fuel to that was the stressing environments that I was in. Getting on stage and speaking is a stressful position to be in when you've never done it before, right? So not only was I practicing the daily rehearsals and routines of all again, the Beelzebubs, the Pride and Prejudice, and those exercises, and then I got in tune with the language that I was just saying, how I wrote it all out on those 3 books, and then I was able to go on stage and put the pressure on myself and realize, like, this is where I get a chance to do my practice runs and my stand-up comedy runs, in essence, where before I go out on the main stage to do the big jokes, I got so many at-bats there that it helps speed up that learning curve, right? And so I was fortunate in that situation. And then I translated it into sales calls when you cold call or when you're just talking to somebody and you can connect with them because you're just pulling information, like you're just having a conversation. And yeah, man, I just that was it. It was literally that simple. And that transformation happened over a couple of years to where it proved itself so powerful that it's that simple, yet that arguably is one of the biggest things that's changed my life. I just did a podcast yesterday. The guy comes to me, we just met. He's like, dude, you're one of the best communicators I've ever had. I'm like, I really don't. Okay, thank you. I get it. But it doesn't seem so distant from just normal practice of doing something every day, man. And again, I added fuel to that. I was fortunate to be on stage every day, podcasting every day, right? Those types of things that you can do regularly that just power it, push it forward, man. So hopefully that helps, man. Hopefully that people can take that and like literally go. There's something special about tongue twisters too. I'm telling you right now, I do them still. Like, and it frees my brain up because my brain has always been interlocked. Like my brain has, I think it's been burnt to hell because of all the drugs and all the stuff I did and drinking for a decade. So I've got to free it up again, free it up. So it's not been the easiest thing, but it's been effective. So yeah, man, that's a fun one. I'm glad you asked that.
I don't think you said it was fairly easy, but basically what you described is you developed a habit over the course of 2.5 years where it was priority. It wasn't, I'm not saying you didn't go out and have fun. You didn't watch TV or play a video game or whatever it is you do for fun. But this habit was priority. That sounds like to me over everything else. Like this one habit had to happen. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, when it comes to certain things, that's the challenge. You have to get over yourself. You have to, in essence, I think you have to break yourself so that you can insert this new habit so you can start developing your skill. Would you say that's pretty accurate to you?
Yeah, I absolutely, man. I definitely agree with the whole habit concept. I think people are habitual. They don't know they're habitual. They're doing things that I think they try to separate themselves from a thing they're doing, which is just normal, but it's a habit. And they try to do something that is in a different direction. And they say, well, I don't have the right habits, but it's like you just have to shift your habit energy. Like you're just redirecting it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then again, if this other thing isn't worth creating or building on, then you're probably not likely to do it. And so, yeah, you're right. In that case, for me, I mean, look, there's things I could do better. Obviously, always, right? I mean, I'll be straight up with you. I am a much better massive action taker than I am a habit person. I still have habits that I need to build and work on. Dude, I partied for a decade in Las Vegas and was up till 8, 9, 10 the next morning, high on cocaine and drugs. And to this day, sometimes I don't get up at the hours I want. I still want to stay up late. Like I'll be up late tonight working, and then I'll want to get up at 5 a.m. And I get it. People are going to be out there. They're going to say, dude, you got to stick to it. You got to commit to it. I'm like, I get it. But I'm effective in the other window that I have because I'm just doing a lot of stuff. I'm creating, I'm building, I'm taking the actions that are necessary. And I believe that is, in my case, that has been the most important thing for me. Now, of course, I always want to keep improving the habits and all these other pieces because I think it will just add more to it. But from that perspective, I'm not going to tell you like I've got the habits routines down and I'm all this stuff. Like I'm habitually taking some serious action and doing work, man. Like that's for sure. Right. Like that's a habit by itself. So I think it's just about determining what it is you're trying to get going and identifying the importance of that towards a vision. If you got one, a vision that matters. And there's certain things in life that are more leverage creators and figuring out what your leverage creators are, right? So big people, big successful people, big network, massive leverage. Like talk about leverage, right? So for me, huge leverage. being able to communicate. Like, dude, I can go anywhere. Put me on a stage, put me on a podcast, put me on a sales call. I can you need someone like me. Leverage, right? So think about that in your own life for what it is you're working on. And then sales in general. By the way, sales skills and really good at it is leverage. Dude, never have to think about a job if you got nothing, right? If you had to go to zero again, you can always get a sales job type of thing. So now there's different levels of that game too, right? So now you're talking about money leverage and business leverage and all that stuff. So it's like it's all orientation towards what it is you're working on. And so yeah, I just stand by those things tremendously. So hopefully that gives you
That's
some
awesome,
good
dude. Yeah, 100%.
insight.
And I'm right there with you, like so getting up in the morning, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, no matter what. It's just the way I'm trained. But going to bed, that's where I struggle because, my entire military career, I go to bed at midnight, get up at 4, you know,
Yeah,
and
man.
to this day, I'm getting older, man, and it's getting harder to function. Like,
Yeah. That's
not,
the other
not
thing,
so,
right?
yeah. So,
Are
I
you eating
mean,
well? Are you taking care of yourself? I mean, that stuff matters too, man. Right?
yeah, 100%. So, for me, it's the habit of just forcing myself to go to sleep, to just shut down and go to bed. And what really sucks is it's like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed. I'll go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'll lay there and play on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, dude, I could have been working.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
such a waste of my time. Anyway, so we're almost out of time, but I really want to ask you this question. When you started your communications training with that first coach in Vegas, and just all throughout your career, how hard has it been for you personally to just humble yourself and realize that you don't you don't have the answers? That's why you're getting coached, and that you just need to shut up and listen. What was that a hard process for you?
Actually not. No, you know
No.
what no, one of my leading personal virtues internally is always humility and vulnerability, right? I mean, and again, I don't know where or when I picked that up, but I do know that when I found it, it stuck with me and I apply it in all things that I do. And by the way, it helps me in what I do better, right? So if I lead with the fact it's like I'm one of us, we are part of the same mortal life. And while I do things differently, I don't want to forget where I come from. I don't want to let my feet get so high off the ground that my head goes with it and I think I'm bigger, better than. And so even in the most extreme cases, like when I'm in environments where, for all intensive reasons, like, people think I'm doing something more than them, better than them, bigger than them. I understand. I go back to that situational awareness in the beginning where it's like contextually, what environment, who's around me, what's going on. Like I can assess pretty quickly that this person is sensing that they're in a different environment. And so I make sure that part of my skill set is to make sure that that guy feels like he's cool, man. He's one of me. Right. So I can go
Mhm.
there with them in that situation. And so that has never been a challenge for me. Maybe when I was high and drunk back in the day, I had that because I wasn't really exploring who I was inside. But now that I've gone that path, I mean, I'm fully in position to lay it down on the line how it is, and without missing a beat, man, can lead with extreme humility, man, just point blank, right? It's easy for me at this point.
That's awesome. I need to develop that skill because I'm not a very humble person sometimes, and
Yeah.
that can make it hard to coach me because it's like, and I don't think it's a matter of humility. I think it's more of I just want to go. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not learning fast enough. I'm not doing fast enough. Let's go faster, faster, faster. And of course, the coach knows better usually, and it's like, no, just slow down. But yeah, that's why I asked because I really
Sure.
struggle with it. So I
Mm-hmm.
was just wondering how about you. So
Practice, man.
yeah, right. We're pretty much out of time. So you get the same treatment as every other guest on my podcast. just one piece of wisdom off the top of your head. What's the most valuable piece of wisdom you can share with anybody out there?
Valuable piece of wisdom. Hmm. I think that one of the things that set me off is part of just, the recycling of my life and understanding it, talking about my mom passing away when she was younger. By the way, she was 32 when she got cancer and passed away. So I believe that now is it's the idea that life is meant to be lived now. This idea that you're holding yourself back, that you have these disbeliefs and these doubts, and I understand it because I have them. That they grip you so tightly and so severely that you feel immobile. You can't do anything else. Um, I want to remind you that that's understandable, but don't let that determine the decisions that you make and the actions that you take in order to move your life forward, because those identities are conditions that have been pawned off to us by experiences of life, that if you could rewrite the entire script literally and it was that easy just to erase and rewrite, that would not be what it is that you're doing or what you would want to be living into. And so on the conditions of that, what's inside of you is that it is conditioning, that it's not who you truly are. You can rewrite that story. And the other thing is that, the promising of life, it's like, yeah, we spoil ourselves and think that tomorrow we're going to wake up, and I get it. But I think in losing my mom and having that car wreck when I was much younger taught me that it's time to go now, because life is not there for everybody. For me, I realized that I was almost killed in that car wreck and that my mom died at 32 years old from cancer. And so internally, to your point, by the way, like I want it now, and I have to realize that there's time that takes to get things to go. And so because of that, it's like creates this dissonance inside of us that it's like frustration, but then it's like, whoa, I'm a lot further ahead. I'm not the same person I am that I used to be. And so we start to formulate a new expectation for what it takes in terms of, like I said at the beginning, inner peace. It's important. So those two things, man, I think that you got to sit with yourself for a second and say, look, is it fair to myself that I want something that I'm not getting right now, but the reality is like I'm just holding myself back, as strong as it feels and as strong as the experience is right now, that maybe I can interpret that as it's just a non-issue, because it's not. And the idea is just bust through, break free, go forward, and take those actions to get yourself out of that condition. And lo and behold, you might end up discovering something about yourself where you're like, wow, like this is the journey that I'm supposed to be on. And that's really where you start to find a level of bliss and just a anointed amount of peace and happiness. Not to say your life and journey won't be riddled with more challenges depending on how big you want to play, but truth is that you're on the path. And when you get on that path, it's a good feeling because you're not stuck in the same mud you were from before. So that would be it, man. I mean, that's a lot of people I think struggle with that. And I think you just do it despite the fears, right? The old courage adage. I can talk about all that stuff. It's just keep it simple. Keep it simple too. Like simplify stuff. Make it easy.
Yeah, I totally agree with keeping it simple. People overcomplicate things so much, and yeah, drives me nuts. So,
Mhm.
um, so my listeners want to work with you, or just want to learn more about you. First of all, what do you offer? What are you offering uh to in order to help people get to where you are or to where they want to be?
Yeah. So my main focus right now, Stephen, is I'm not selling anything, like literally. I make my money selling people's stuff, other people's stuff. Like that's how I make a living. Um, so I've got the always on the grow hosting doc, I would say, that has lots of the trainings that I've done. I've been paid lots of money to do, that different leaders in their departments have brought me in to train on. I've put all that stuff in a system for free. You can literally go and put in your name, phone number, and email. Make sure you hit the subscription button, because I'm going to send you some cool emails on top of that with some great value. And so where I'm at today is I'm not competing on selling stuff, and where I'm at personally, I'm competing on giving away what I know for free and building the brand of which you see behind me. So go to alwaysonthegrow.com, and you'll see a couple of click through buttons, and then go to the growth tools tab, and then you can log into the system there and get access to all the free stuff that I put in there, including my book that has my full story and journey and transformational path on there, amongst many other things. And then the podcast, man, I'm fully going crazy on the podcast, not just today, but forever. I got a huge vision around that. And so, if you guys want to go check that out, that would be huge. Give me a like, listen, subscribe, review, rate, all that good stuff. And that's just Always on the Grow with Manny Vargas. So on all channels, can't miss it. Make it simple for you guys. Come on now.
100%. And of course, I'll have links to all your stuff in the show notes, and I can vouch. I'm a member of Manny's little subscription thing he's got going on, and it is 100% complimentary. And he has I don't even think I've scratched the surface. You opened it up, what, 3 weeks ago?
Recently. Yeah. Not too long ago, man.
I've spent several hours in there, and I don't even think I've got through like 5% of what you got in there. There's so much. So hey, man, it's great. It's great stuff, though, man. Loving it.
That's the key. That's the key. How can I bring you some more great stuff?
Right on.
So,
all right, everybody. Like I said, his links will be in the show notes to all his socials and his website and podcast. And make sure you go check him out. And he is Manny Vargas. I am Stephen Morris. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, Stephen.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Renowned Leadership Podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Manny and about this inspiring story and his amazing journey and the valuable leadership lessons he's learned along the way. And don't forget to check out Manny's website, alwaysonthegrow.com, for all the free resources he has for you to learn from. And for more information about our group coaching program at Renowned Leadership, visit our website, renownedleadership.com. That's RENOWNED leadership.com. And remember, for a limited time, use coupon code COACHING360 at checkout, and you'll get your first month of group coaching with all the benefits it has to offer you absolutely free. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.